Oh, hello there. Yes. Over the hump of the week. It's fairly nice. It's half term next week, which I'm rather looking forward to. Today I want to talk about ministerial resignations. Been thinking after the morning after Partygate, one might say, and the inevitable sequence of events yesterday with nobody in government taking responsibility for having broken the law, in essence. You may well be a pro-conservative supporter, but if you think that it's a good idea that government ministers don't resign when they've done something wrong, simply because they are conservative ministers, then you need to sort of question about what your commitment to democracy is, I would argue. If you look at ministerial resignations since 2010, they fall, broadly speaking, into two major categories. The first one is ministers who have been forced out due to sexual misconduct, shall we say, of which there are a fairly hefty amount since 2010. That's definitely something you have to go for. And the other big one is ministers resigning in disgust, presumably as a matter of honour and principle, about Brexit. And under May, that reached almost catastrophic proportions towards the end of her second year in office. If you then sift those out, you're left with a handful of actual ministerial resignations for wrongdoing. Probably the most famous of which is Priti Patel, who decided to basically go to Israel and offer their army aid. She's in government again. They very often bounce back, these people. But generally speaking, I'm sure people my age and slightly lower will sort of think to themselves that basically nobody realistically resigns from government. It doesn't really matter how bad you are or quite what you do, you don't get to go. And this, perhaps, one might argue, leads to us not being a properly functioning democracy, because if somebody does something extremely wrong and indeed breaks the law, then it used to be that they would go rapidly. They wouldn't try and hang on for 2 weeks having the full backing of the Prime Minister. They would just go because it was the thing to do. And especially, one might argue, under Boris Johnson, just people don't. Matt Hancock decided to hang on for a while, if you think about that particular high-profile case. This is basically a problem, and it would be a reasonable idea, I think, for any incoming and new administration to actually make sure that there are rules that can be enforced by a parliamentary committee to get people to go. Because if people break the law and there are no consequences for it, they are usually encouraged to break the law again. And you can be an arch conservative supporter, but if you think it's a good idea for members of the party that you support to break the law and stay in office and to continue to do it over and over again, then you really need to ask what your commitment to that democracy is. I would suggest almost none. And on a wider point, one might argue that when we've reached this situation, let's call it for what it is, it becomes corruption. And at that point, we've become a failed state. We've simply stopped being a democracy. They won't go. They won't go no matter what they do. It's against the law. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. None of it matters. Yes, it was only a bit of cake. It was only 5 minutes. It was only 10 minutes. It only broke the law. It doesn't matter. Anyway, that's my little thought for the day. It was interesting yesterday to have quite a lot of views and comments around my Ricky Gervais piece. Don't know. See what you think, guys. Should they go? Don't know. Make up your mind.